Never heard of him.
Yeah, you have. The guy that wears the kilt.
Never heard of him.
I've worked at the last 2 super shows.
It's not on my level.
Shit, he can work, man.
Ain't nobody can outwork me.
No, that's it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Professional Wrestler Extraordinaire Kirby Mack. I am the best professional wrestler that you've never heard of. And this right here is the first episode of The Safe House with Kirby Mack. It's a concept that came to me after listening to The Art of Wrestling by Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana's podcast is very good, it's very entertaining, and it keeps us, and thousands apparently, entertained on the road. I was also watching The Highway to Helms, and that was a very good podcast as well. Very opinionated. So I thought, you know what, I kind of want to blend the two styles. So, well, I want to welcome you guys to our studio apartment. For those of you that listen to Art of Wrestling, you get that little joke, so I'm ripping you off Colt Cabana. Basically, what the Safe House is I'm just going to bring you guys you probably never even heard of, guys you may have heard of, you never really know. I want you to see kind of the real weekend warriors, the guys who do this all the time, every weekend, that you never hear of or you may never see. But if it wasn't for these guys that run these shows, these guys that fill these cards, there wouldn't be independent professional wrestling. Granted, now you've got your guys like Daniel Bryan, or Daniel Bryan?
Daniel Bryan.
Bryan Danielson, which is his slave name. You got your guys like CM Punk, who obviously were like the greatest on the indies, and now they are where they are, and that's awesome. You know, they definitely worked their way up. But what about the guys that you don't hear of? The guys that worked CM Punk 50 times. You know, the guys that helped make Bryan Danielson who he is. You know, what do they go through? What is their struggle? So the concept of the Safe House is, you know, this is your safe zone. That's kind of where it all came from. Anything you say here is safe. Obviously, I want you to be as honest and open as possible and shoot if you feel the need to. But I don't want you to shoot just for shock value. This isn't New Jack or Balls Mahoney. I want you to shoot so people understand your struggle, what we go through, the feelings that we deal with. Like a lot of the times, like for me, a lot of times if I'm on Twitter and I'll say something, I'm obviously very opinionated. I obviously say a lot.
Very opinionated.
Sometimes I get in trouble. Most recently, Sanjay Dutt. I don't know if you saw that. I got a little heated exchange with Sanjay Dutt. Well, we were on a show in Orlando Saturday for Continental Wrestling Federation, and Sanjay was there. Sanjay's a nice guy. You know, I've shared locker room with him many times. But he's just kind of those guys. He's an acquaintance. I don't see Sanjay much. I don't talk to Sanjay much. I know of Sanjay. Sanjay knows of me. That's about as far as we go. No problem with the guy. Great guy. Monday I tweeted. Monday or Tuesday I tweeted. Whatever. I said I had heard that Sanjay Dutt was injured again. That's what people were telling me. But then I found out that the rumor was untrue, and I was like, wow. All I keep hearing about are these rumors of how Sanjay Dutt is injured. And I said, well, you know, I wanted to make an obscure Ahmed Johnson reference on Twitter because I'm an Ahmed Johnson fan. So I said, you know, I think my exact words were, with the recent trend of injuries Sanjay Dutt is having, one would assume that he's Ahmed Johnson in disguise. And then it was a few hours later, all of a sudden my timeline starts blowing up from Sanjay Dutt. And the funny part is, to me, is I don't follow Sanjay. Sanjay doesn't follow me. So he obviously doesn't care what I'm up to. So somebody went out of their way to text him or call him, and they're like, "Oh, Kirby's talking mad about you on Twitter," and I don't even see how there's anything offensive in that tweet. Now later on when I was talking to Sanjay, he thought I was making fun of him because he was injured, and I can kind of see how that may come off as not offensive but insensitive.
Right.
But that obviously wasn't what I was doing. So anyway, he's blowing me up, he's cursing at me, and he's like, "Why didn't you say it to my face when you were there Saturday?" Truth is, Sanjay, as I've already told you online, I didn't say it to your face Saturday because I didn't think of it until Monday or Tuesday when I tweeted it. So, and like I was trying to convey to you, that's just the type of person I am. I'm a very opinionated guy with a dry sense of humor, and I bust balls a lot. And the fact of the matter is, and Gary will tell you, the fact of the matter is, if I don't like you or care about you or respect you, I'm not going to talk about you. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth, but if I joke about you or I mention you, it's because I have respect for you. And this guy will tell you, all I do is break his balls.
All the time.
But going back to that, anyway, what I was saying is, you know, I want people to be able to say what they really feel without being scared of repercussions, maybe. And also, a lot of the times I'll say things like, because I think one of the things people don't understand about independent wrestlers is that sometimes when we were on the road 8, 10, 12 hours, we have a lot of time to ourselves, and we have a lot of time to think, and through those minutes, those seconds, those hours, I mean, it can get really depressing. And sometimes, you just want an outlet, you just want to say something, so sometimes I'll just tweet something that may come off as a little depressing, and then you get, oh, he's just a bitter guy. He's a bitter guy that's never made it. And that's not necessarily the case. Maybe sometimes that may be the case, but that's not necessarily the case. So what I want to convey with this whole safe house is that I'm not the only guy who has these thoughts. We're not bitter. When we have these thoughts, it's because of what we go through. It's literally life on the road. It's the struggle that you want to make it so bad that it hurts. And that's where a lot of these thoughts and these things come from. So that's what I want to convey with this. So with that, I want to bring to you guys my first guest. My first guest, again, is another wrestler that you've never heard of. So that makes 2 right here. So, I mean, how awesome is your day that you've been introduced to 2 guys you've never heard of? Gary Benfield, also known in the professional wrestling world as Viper. We'll let him tell you a little bit about himself, but I don't want to really stick on how you got into the business and all that. Just touch briefly on it because, quite frankly, I kind of get bored with that because everyone's story is almost the same. Who really cares how you got into the business? So this is Viper, and one of the reasons why I want to bring Gary as my first guest here is because not only has Viper been wrestling for how long?
15 years.
15 years. It's well, 15 years too long.
Yeah. There's that ball bust.
But he's also been promoting for
10 years.
10 years. Now, is that 15 years and then an additional 10 years promoting, or is that 15 years and in that 15 years there's 10 years promoting?
Yeah. It's within 15 years, 10 of that's been promotion.
So 5 is when you were running the roads hard,
right.
And 10 of that,
right.
Of that 15 is promoting.
Yeah, I got to be honest, man. I hadn't, in the last 8 years, I hadn't did a lot of road travel. Mm-hmm. It's being a family man and trying to take care of my family and promote high velocity wrestling. It's close by shows I hit every once in a while, but not traveling like I did before I became a promoter. And
I think that may be another thing that a lot of people don't realize. And I don't want to come on here and be like, oh, woe is me. Let me play the violin. Poor me. We're on the road. We miss birthdays. We miss Christmas. Because we subject ourselves to this. We're the drug addicts who stick the needle in our vein, so we can't cry about it. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize either. And it's just like in Hollywood or anything else. We all have families too that get affected by this business just like we do. So as upset as we may be about missing our son's birthday, our son is twice as upset, and that's something else that I just want to. I hope this whole series will help convey. But why don't we go ahead and start, Gary, and just kind of give a little brief background about yourself. So we know 15 years. So all right, let's go with the obvious. Who trained you?
Wahoo McDaniels. Well,
he's dead now, right?
Yeah, Wahoo's dead. I mean, I actually took my first bumps in a ring in a backyard, like a lot of indies.
So you backyard wrestled?
Well, I never backyard wrestled. I took my first bumps that was in a ring set up in somebody's backyard. But shortly after that, I just happened to be at a show that Wahoo was at.
Sure.
And he seen me working out before the show and invited me to his school in Charlotte. And I ended up driving him around to all his bookings for 2 years. And in return, I got trained.
So in those 2 years that you drove him around to bookings, he was obviously training you within those 2 years that you were driving him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Were you working on shows with him?
No, I was just traveling around. Now, I was working shows of my own when I wasn't driving him around, but I was not working the same shows that Wahoo was every week. Once in a while, I would get,
So it took about 2 years for Wahoo to release you and say, okay, you're ready to go on my type of shows?
Oh, yeah. And then the very first show I ever worked that Wahoo got me booked on, I worked Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker. And he was a trainer for WCW Power Plant.
Okay.
And pretty much just got my ass beat for 5 minutes. But I did what I was told to do, and that's what you do when you try to make it in the business. Is when you first break in, you got to listen to the veterans and do what they tell you to do. And if not, You know how it is. You get beat down.
And like I do training now here at High Velocity Wrestling. We train. We invite one of the head trainers at the High Velocity Pro Wrestling Academy. And one of the things like I try to convey to my students now is don't do what I do. Like I'm at the point now in my career where, you know, and I understand going back to even the Sanjay thing, where a lot of people are like, oh well, you know, that's just not me. I wouldn't say stuff like that because, you know, I don't even want to get near the heat. But it's like, it's not heat to me. It's like it's ridiculous. So I'm the type of guy who's going to say what's on my mind first without worrying, and I'll worry about the repercussions later. And that is probably a better trait to have, but it's unfortunately it's who I am. But I try to convey that to my students, you know, don't be like me, don't open your mouth, keep it quiet.
Kirby, you know, if anybody knows, man, I've been in the middle of heat for years, and a lot of it's my own fault because I was just like you. I opened my mouth when I shouldn't open my mouth.
Sure.
I say things I shouldn't have said when I should have kept my mouth shut, I didn't. And honestly, you know, it hurt me as a promoter and a wrestler because I got to where a lot of promoters wouldn't book me because of the heat that I brought with me.
Yeah.
A lot of people were bad-mouthing HVW because of the heat that I had with other guys, and it's taken me a long time to get out of that reputation.
All right, so we've got the Chief Wahoo McDaniels. Now, I know a little bit of when you were running the roads before promoting. Did you had a couple of dark matches?
Yeah, I had 2 dark matches with WCW, and I worked Diamond Dallas Page, and I worked Norman Smiley, and you know both times.
Okay, so lest anyone think I'm just bringing you some jabroni off the street. This guy's been in the ring with Self High Five.
Yes. Yeah. And the Big Wiggle.
That's right.
And the Big Wiggle.
All right, 2 of WCW's biggest stars, still running today. Is WCW still running?
No.
Oh, never mind.
You know, but I have to give, you know, Buddy Lee Parker credit for that, because even after I wrestled him in you know, on the Wahoo show that time, you know, we still I worked. Being that I drove Wahoo around, he was on the show with the same people all the time. So I really, you know, back then you didn't have the internet and you didn't have text messaging and stuff like that.
I hate you, internet.
Yeah, it was just phone calls, and you know, Buddy Lee Parker ran Wahoo's Chop Shop, him and Shane Douglas.
And I don't know how open or in detail do you want to get, and you totally don't have to because everything can just be edited out anyway. So you had a couple of dark matches, and obviously, you know, I've had some enhancement matches and dark matches. And when you have a good one, you feel like you're right there at the glass ceiling and you're about to chip away at it. Did you have that feeling? Did you think you were there? You were on your way?
You know, Kirby, it was I was very young, and
So you thought the world was yours?
Yeah, you know, and I thought, man, I'm about to be handed, you know, life's about to just be handed to me.
Sure.
And I had I won't lie, man, I was very egotistical, and I developed a good ego, and the thing about it was, you know, back then the shows I were working, and you know, this might sound egotistical now, but the caliber of guys that were working on the shows I was working weren't on my level.
Sure.
And you know, so I wasn't taking these guys with me. We wasn't traveling together, so I was traveling by myself or with my son that was 7 years old at the time. So, you know, it was, like you said, a lot of alone time. And back, you know, it wasn't no putting your phone and watching a movie or something when you're traveling back.
Right.
It was just turning the radio up and go.
So, but when you had those dark matches, I mean, did you have a sense like maybe a contract was coming? Did you think that maybe you'd be working for WCW?
Well, yeah, the mentions of a developmental deal were brought up, but
okay.
You know, I was drug tested twice and failed both times.
So it's safe to say that the possibility of you having a huge career was blown because of mistakes you made.
Oh, I can't blame it on anybody but myself.
Right. So what would be some your wife's?
Yeah, my wife shooting me a tip.
Ruining everything.
Oh, it's
typical woman in wrestling. I love you, babe. So what would be some advice then to someone, you know, let's say one of our students is getting their trial match and they do really good and they feel like it's about to happen, and obviously you don't get too excited, but you know, what would be your advice to them to not blow it, I guess, since we've both been there. Although I
never stop working, never stop, continue to work, continue to stay humble, you know, listen to any veteran that you can listen to, take advice from anybody that's willing to give it to you.
Yeah.
Never think that, hey, you know, I'm here, I know what I'm doing, because you don't. You know, it's,
and always listen to
you
me.
can never stop learning in this business. Even after 15 years, I learned something. I mean, I never have a match with somebody that I've never wrestled before and not learn something. I wrestled some guy named Strychnine last Friday in Georgia. Never been in the ring with him before. And, you know, it's just learning a different style, man. You know, my style and these new cats coming in, it's hard for me to adapt, even if me and you work each other. It's, you know, you work my old butt to death. But
unless anyone think that when he says cats, he means actual felines. He means people. Just dumb it down. Dumb it down.
yeah.
No. All right. So let's get out of the independent ranks now. You ran it for 5 years. You had a couple of tryouts. You went through the typical struggle, and now you decided to go to promoting. Why? Like, I ran one show in like 2001 under my banner, Made Pro Wrestling. It stands for, it was an acronym, it was like the Omega's son. So Made stood for Modern Action Diverse Entertainment. And that was just a headache in itself, running one show. So why now have you decided to run shows 10 years ago?
I never decided, you know, it wasn't like I just decided one day, hey, I want to promote shows. Guy in the business, and Bob Keller, man, he's been around for years.
Yeah, Bob actually helped break me in, man.
Bob was
Great guy.
He was. I was working at Chief J Eagles down in Spartanburg, where a lot of indie guys have worked. And Bob was there, and he was just. I heard him tell Chief that he had a ring for sale, and I had several guys that was interested in training, and so I didn't have a ring to train them in. So I asked Bob about the ring. And my wife actually bought me the ring for a birthday present. And we had it set up outside. And man, wintertime rolled around, and literally we'd go out and sweep the snow off the ring and bump around, and that thing was so hard because it was cold. And
Sure, yeah.
Steel would get cold. So I just rented this, man, I wouldn't even consider it a building. It was like a bunch of 2x4s with aluminum nailed to it, and it was just like a little shack. And I rented that to get the ring out of the weather so we could have somewhere to train. And that, you know, I was training Ken Magnum, Adam Jackson, a guy goes by the name of David Duke, who else? Stony Hooker, you know, several.
Again, another handful of guys you've never heard of.
Right,
But
yeah.
you may if you watch the Safe House.
Indie talent that you've never heard of. But anyway, they said, man, we should run a show one time just to so we could actually like wrestle in front of a crowd. So they convinced me to do it. We made up a couple little flyers, hung them out around Hendersonville, and we drew about 15 people. But we made enough money to pay the rent on the building. So I thought, shit, if we can do this a couple times a month and draw 20 people, it gives the guys an opportunity to wrestle in front of some people, and we'll make enough money to pay the rent.
Sure.
And before you knew it, Kirby, I ain't kidding, man, this building with the ring in it, I'll tell you, I had to go under the building and put hydraulic jacks under the ring poles so they didn't fall through the floor.
Right.
There's no way people should have been in this building. And 2 months after we started, we was packing 65, 70 people in this building.
Yeah. Which, if you've seen this building, it's about as big as this locker room.
Oh, yeah.
That's an impressive amount.
Yeah.
I think the fire marshal said 5.
The fire marshal shut it down. You know, after we did it for about right at a year, running shows in that building on a bi-weekly Friday night basis. And then one night, a fan threw a cheeseburger at Ken Magnum in the ring, and Ken lost his cool.
After he ate it.
No, he didn't eat it. And he flew water back at the guy, and there was some black guys in the back row that got wet, and they stormed through the crowd after Ken.
With guns in hand.
No, they didn't have no guns, but they come through the crowd and knocked this lady's kid over, and she got upset.
Who was breastfeeding at the time?
And then next thing you knew, the cops got called. And when the cops got called, the fire marshal showed up. And that was the end of that.
That's what he said. This building should be
He
condemned.
padlocked the door shut that night. The next morning, me and my trainees,
It's kind of like that movie Lean on Me
yeah,
with Morgan Freeman.
we went and cut the lock off the building and got all our stuff out. And it
I
took-
guess enough years have passed that you can legally say that you cut the lock off.
Oh, and they knew I did, because when
Sure.
I got the next building, man, it took me forever to get the fire marshal to pass the building
Yeah.
because I cut his lock
Yeah.
off.
Okay, so now we're in the promoting realm of it, and you've been basically in Hendersonville. I mean, you ran some shows outside of Hendersonville for the past 10 years, but you've been homestead in Hendersonville, and you've had a lot of success here. Brought tons of names through here. Both Hardys,
Jeff and
Matt and Jeff
Hardy.
Hardy,
Yeah.
Shannon Moore. We've got, I mean, I guess we could say now this won't be up for a while anyway. So Shane Helms is on his way. Who else?
Man,
I mean, the walls are full
yeah,
here.
the legends.
Ricky Landau.
The legends that's been through here. I mean, Greg the Hammer Valentine,
Yeah.
Petey Williams,
Petey Williams,
Ivan and Nikita Koloff,
Chris Sabin.
Chris Sabin, Dusty Rhodes,
D'Lo Brown.
Jerry Lynn. You know,
John Larnice. Speaking of,
Yeah.
and this might be something, and this is something interesting. I don't know how much you want to get in depth with it or what you're going to get into, but kind of tell the fans a little. I don't know if anybody knows it. I don't even know if they can. But I found it very interesting. You actually owned the rights to NXT before WWE, and WWE bought them from you.
that's kind of the way it worked. Yeah, basically, you know, anybody that
So let's start though with like the inception of NXT. Like this was how long before WWE came to you?
we had NXT for about a year before
Okay.
they started. Basically, it was I had a bunch of young guys that had finished training and were ready to start wrestling on the show, but they weren't. You know, they weren't main event guys. They weren't mid card guys, but they were small.
So it's like Brody.
Yeah, like Brody. But in all honesty, man, they were young, and I wanted to do something different. So I thought, well, these guys are young, they're up and coming, so let's just make a whole division for the rookies, and we'll call it the NXT, the next generation of professional wrestling.
And you actually called it NXT.
NXT,
For
right.
the rookies.
Yeah, and we had a belt and everything.
Right.
We had a belt made just for that division, the NXT division.
Do we still have that belt?
No.
Okay. John Larnice stole it.
No.
It's in his bathroom.
But anyway, and then we actually transferred that from our old building to this building, and was picking it up really big here. And we had Alex Averinos. You know, I'm sure you'll hear that name again. The kid was he's a heck of a wrestler.
Even a better stooge.
But he was our NXT champ at the time.
What a rib. Jeff knows all about that.
Yeah,
Rib.
yeah, broke rib. But then,
Both ribs.
yeah.
Okay.
But then it's like the WWE starts popping up these promos about this NXT thing. And, you know, there was a guy here doing my...
So WWE starts popping up these promos about this NXT thing. It's essentially your concept. Rookies, the next generation coming in, called NXT. They start popping them up. What's your first thought? I mean, are you like every other promoter out there? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but are you like every other promoter out there and you're like, they're obviously watching my product?
You know, of course that runs through your head. Of course it does. And if it don't... And who's to say that they're not? You know,
Absolutely.
WWE's got, they got to come up with new ideas anyway. Me and you've recently been backstage, and you see the goofballs they got writing their show. They're not
Yeah.
coming up with this crap on their own.
Such a great promo. So NXT starts popping up now. WWE's obviously they're ripping off your idea, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So what's the next move?
Well, anybody that knows anything about promotion on the internet, there's a thing called the poor man's copyright, and basically you download it, fill it out, mail it back to yourself.
As long as it's postmarked.
And yeah, as long as it's postmarked, but don't open the envelope when you get it back.
For the record, Action Entertainment, poor man copyrighted.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it, Wrigley Spearman.
So I did that, and there was a guy here doing my ring announcing for me. His name was Lance.
Armstrong.
No.
Kincaid.
And he was a big internet guy. And I said, Lance, man, let's send some emails and just see what happens. So he typed up this real professional sounding email, sent it to WWE, and maybe a week, 2 weeks.
So just for the hell of it, you
Yeah.
just want to see what their
would happen?
response would be.
Yeah.
So, had they not have responded, you just would have let it go by the wayside?
Yeah, of course we
Okay.
did. What could we have done about it?
Okay.
I mean, it ain't like you could compete with Vince in court or anything. Who's got that
Speak
kind
for
of
yourself, but I understand.
money? Yeah, big money Mac over there.
Yeah. All right. So we send emails to WWE corporate.
Yeah. And then one night, it was a
Do you
Wednesday.
attach any photos of your wife?
No.
Okay.
It was a Wednesday night. I'll never forget it. It was 9:30. Exactly 9:30. My phone rings. I didn't recognize the number.
Because John Laurinaitis is very punctual. He calls people when they're obviously not asleep. 9:30 at night.
Yeah. And
People power.
I almost didn't answer the phone because I didn't recognize the number. And I answered the phone, said hello.
That's the excuse I use when you call.
Yeah, hey, I know.
Viper, I don't recognize that name.
Yeah, so I just don't answer. But anyway, I said hello. And he said, as soon as I heard his voice, I knew who it was. He said, is this Gary Benfield, the owner of...
Actually, he said,
Is this Gary Benfield? Yeah.
owner of High Velocity
Yeah, that's
Wrestling.
exactly the way he said it. And I was like, yes, sir. And he said, John Laurinaitis, Executive Vice President, Talent Relations for WWE. And
An interim Raw GM,
Well,
but he wasn't.
Not at that time. So I was like, yes, sir, how can I help you? And, you know, long story short, he asked me about the NXT, how long we've been doing it, what our concept was, asked me, and I, honestly, I don't know why, because WWE would not have had to do this, but he asked me,
I mean, they did right by you.
oh yeah, he asked me if I wanted to sell the rights. And I said, John, it's not all about money, man. I said, I want to do business with WWE. And without getting in a whole lot of details, because contractually I can't.
Right.
But basically I worked the deal out where when WWE's in North Carolina, they contact me when they're looking for extras. And
They take a look at your talent, what you have to offer.
yeah. And I worked out a deal where John came and did a seminar, and he came and watched one of our shows. And really, that's all I could say about it.
So now, 100% rightfully so, WWE owns all the rights to NXT.
Yes.
You sold those off,
Yeah.
whether money or through other forms of business.
Right. I was just trying to look out for HBW.
Sure.
And it's benefited us.
Which is kind of cool to me because like there are so many promoters and wrestlers alike who go, man, they're watching my stuff, they're stealing my stuff, and most of the times WWE just brushes it off like you're not even a blip on the radar. But for them to kind of say, okay, you got it and we want it. What can we do? I mean, they gave you that nod, which is kind of
Well,
cool.
evidently there was another Fed like over in the European countries that had an NXT brand too, and evidently WWE worked out a deal with them too.
That's cool though, right? You never. I'm just trying to say you never hear WWE doing that. If they do it, it's kept very quiet.
Oh yeah,
It's just cool to see local promotions get that nod and be like, hey, whether or not they're admitting that they took it from High Velocity Wrestling, or whether or not they came up with the concept totally on their own, which isn't far-fetched. I mean, tons of people thought of the suplex,
The coolest thing for me about the whole thing was, I negotiated the seminar, and I negotiated Laurinaitis coming here to watch a show. Well, when he did the seminar, he did it on a Sunday. That Monday, they were at the Bilo Center for Raw, and they were in Raleigh for SmackDown. So me and several other guys got booked as extras for those shows. But when I went to the Bilo Center, no, I'm lying, it was in Charlotte and Raleigh. When we went to Charlotte on Monday.
The point of a shoot is to tell the truth.
Yeah, that's why I corrected myself. When we went to Charlotte, and John actually grabbed me and took me around and introduced me to people, man. When he introduced me to like all the agents backstage, Michael Hayes, Dean Malenko, all those guys, as this is Gary Benfield, he sold us the rights to NXT.
Sure.
And I thought that was pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
I mean, you got your just desserts. So
Yeah.
So, to those who have no idea, all you ever hear about most of the times is you hear from bookers, you hear some from creative, you hear tons of stories from talent. You don't ever hear much from promoters, with the exception of Gabe, who's like, I guess he's the Vince McMahon of indie promoting, even though he hates my guys.
Who's this?
Gabe Spillo. Ring of Honor.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know his last name. I don't know how to say it. I just keep digging the hole. He's not going to book me anyway. So let's turn to the promotion side of things to kind of give people better understand what are some of the evils. We all know what the evils and the demons of a wrestler are. What are some of the evils of promoting? What are the hardships? Like, what is it that makes you here at this desk and go, is it worth running another show?
You know, we run a weekly show. So, you know, it's a little bit different than a promoter that promotes a monthly or a bi-monthly show. You know, if he puts the farm in one show and don't draw, you know, he loses everything. But we put everything we got into every week. And, you know, in the wintertime, business is good for a weekly wrestling show because there's nothing to do, in the mountains anyway. But in the summertime, it's really tough, man, when the crowds drop down. I mean, we've had as little as 20 people for a show. And it's tough because, you know, me and my partner Jeff and everybody else surrounded with HVW, we work so hard to give the guys the best possible stage we can for them to show their craft. And when they got, you know, there again, not trying to sound egotistical, but there's not many indie fans can touch our set with our production and stuff. And you know, not
Sure.
indie fans. I mean, there's Ring of Honor, stuff like that, of course. But anyway, when the guys walk out there and they're on a stage like their own and they got a nice ring and there's 20 people in the crowd, it's really tough, man. It makes you question, is it all worth it?
Hold on one second. I'm going to stop and check the sound level. Make sure we're not getting blocked out by this rain. So I hate that for you. And then we'll go right back into it. All right. We didn't edit it to cut anything out. I just wanted to check the sound. It was raining and old man was snoring and stuff. All right.
Yeah.
So I know since I've come on board and helped with your training and sort of helped with your weekly shows, I know that one of the biggest problems, especially for a weekly show versus running once a month or once every 2 months, is a commitment from guys, having a lot of guys here. And being on the opposite side, being a wrestler, I also know, from a wrestler standpoint, for when I work for XYZ company, you know, I need a commitment from you that you'll be here every show. And it's like, well, I can't commit to you because my goal with professional wrestling is not to get a independent contract or to get to work on every show for ZWF Wrestling Federation out in Milwaukee. You know, my goal is to wrestle for World Wrestling Entertainment and to get paid by Vince McMahon. So if I can get a show that's going to put me on a bigger platform or a show that's going to pay me more money or it's going to be more experience, I'm going to jump at that opportunity. I'm not going to commit to you and your 50 fans if I can go travel up north and work for CZW. So I understand that from a wrestling standpoint, but I also understand how difficult it is for a promoter and how frustrating that can be. Because just recently, you know, we were trying to run an angle and we were putting time, you put money, you put effort, and you put a lot of resources into guys that you're trying to run an angle with. Like when we were running the angle with Alex and who? Brady?
Brady.
And Brady. You know, we put a lot of time, a lot of resources into pushing Alex as to be your big heel with Brady, and you know he commits to it. He says, "Yeah, I'm down for it." And then a TV taping for another promotion down the road opens up, and you know he bails out. And on one of your big shows where he was supposed to wrestle Brady, you know, for the heavyweight title. And so essentially everything we did for the past, you know, month and a half, 2 months now has to be rewritten. Yeah, now has this red letter. I don't see stand by. Now it has to be totally rewritten. Hey, Mom. So everything we do now has to be totally rewritten, and we have to come up with something new, and we have to find new guys. So I get that, you know, that commitment and loyalty is a hard thing, but is that something that, like, even though you try not to, you end up taking personally?
You know, this can go way back to the early days of HVW, man. I had a really, really good core group of guys that believed in our product, that, man, our building was packed every week. We were putting on some of the best indie wrestling shows I ever seen. We actually had developed a little cult following. You know, the fans each wrestler had his own little group of fans, and there again, it's guys that you've never heard of. You know, Derek Rise, Rocky Star, B.J. Hancock, Mike McLeod, you know, myself, and then, you know, Adam Jackson, Ken Magnum. Just a really, really, really good group of guys, and had probably the best ring announcer on the indie scene, and Brett Wolverton, helping me write the shows and storylines. That's my opinion. I know you like Eddie Rich.
Eddie Rich,
but that's my opinion. Well, and you know, Brett started with me, so
Brett's a dang good second.
yeah, he's okay. All right, but anyway, we had a really big show one night, and there was a guy in the crowd that I recognized from the early Memphis days of wrestling, and it was J.D. Costello. And then the next week he was at a show, and then the next week he was at a show, and then we had a big War Games show. Building was jacked. The crowd was packed. Had to put on a hell of a show. And after the show, JD was just like, you know, we've been here for a couple weeks. There's something in the air here. The feeling's electric. You know, we've checked out other indie shows, and it's not like that. You know, me and my partner want to get involved with HVW, and the man promised me the world. And you know, I'm a struggling indie promoter working third shift in a factory, trying to make it. And
it's not a bad thing though, because if JD's on, JD Costello, I mean, he's worth his weight in gold. When he did NWA Charlotte, I mean, the man put something into it. But anyway,
I'll never ever doubt that. But where I made a mistake was, you know, like I said, JD's promising me the world.
Yeah.
We can do this, we can do that, we can do this, but we need to get rid of these guys. And these guys that he wanted to get rid of were the guys that helped me get HVW to the point
they built it.
Yeah, and they help us get it to the point that he wanted to be a part of.
Sure.
But then once he became a part, he didn't want them to be a part of it.
He wants his boys.
And you know, unfortunately, I listened, and man, that almost put HVW under. Now, don't get me wrong. When JD was around, we rebuilt the locker room and you know, kept the crowd, you know, and kept delivering top-notch wrestling shows. You know, that's the first opportunity I had to really bring in some big names. We brought Abyss in from TNA. We brought, you know, Buff Bagwell in. We did a couple really big shows outside of our arena. But, you know, it was burning bridges with guys that
yeah.
You know, that it's taken me this long to start rebuilding those bridges.
And so you say at that point, you know, you're a family man working third shift, 40, 50 plus hours a week, and you're running a wrestling show. You know, try to convey how actually difficult that is. I mean, because to me, from what I can understand, like, I couldn't do it because promoting, especially a weekly show, seems like a full-time job.
Kirby, I can remember a time where our good friend Thomas Simpson was promoting shows in my building on Friday night.
Yep.
And then I was running a show on Saturday. And on a Friday night show, I got off of work that morning, went home, slept a little bit, got to the building, got everything ready for Thomas's show. And matter of fact, it was you and Otto Swan in the ring. And the ring broke.
Yeah.
The ring broke. We couldn't finish the show. Thomas got insanely pissed off. I left that show, went straight to work, got off of work at 8 o'clock the next morning, went straight back to the building and worked on the ring all day to prepare it for that night show. Put on my show, went back to work, and I did all this without sleep, and finally went to sleep on Sunday morning when I got off of work. And sometimes it takes dedication like that, man. And
well, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, is it worth it?
oh yeah, you know, anybody that knows my past, and I know you people at home don't know, but you know, I haven't had the greatest past. You know, I battled addiction issues and alcoholism, and you know, this is what keeps me sane. This is my escape from the real world, man. I cannot stress how on Saturday nights, on Saturday I get to be Viper and not Gary. And it's just, to me, that's better than any drug, whether there's if you walk out in front of 100 people that are screaming to the top of their lungs, or 1,000 people that's not making any noise, I'm gonna get more energy off of that 100 people. And even if there's 20 people or 40 people, if they're into what you're doing, it's a pretty cool feeling.
Now I make a joke every now and then that insanity is. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah.
And then I'll say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and then expecting different results, i.e., independent professional wrestling. And so it's like, in a sense, oh, you're knocking it, so why do you do it? And it's really something else that I want to get out of the Safe House series is I want to try to convey through my words, through your words, through everyone else's words, there's something there on why we do it, but we just can't put it into words. So like you're running these weekly shows, you don't know from time to time, especially in the summer, where you're going to get the money to pay the boys, let alone where you're going to get the money to pay the rent, to pay the building. Obviously, you're working with the Salvation Army, so you've got a real good group of guys. But you're what up, Jay? So you're not going to be WWE. You're never going to be Vince McMahon. You're not even ever going to be able to compete on their level. Probably what you're doing now is what you will do, with the exception of a couple of big shows here and there. So then why do it? Like what is the end goal for HBW? When HBW closes its doors, what do you want the tombstone to say? I'm here, I'm queer.
No, man, when
I'm trying to light the mood.
I got you.
Get a little teary eyed.
No, when it's all said and done, man, through all the mistakes, through all the glitz and the glory, nobody will ever be able to say that Gary Benfield didn't bust his ass to make HBW successful. Man, my wife, absolutely. I wouldn't say she hates wrestling, but
she's not a fan.
Well, my wife would much rather be doing something every Saturday than sitting at the ticket window and taking money.
And it's difficult.
But she understands my passion for this business, and she understands that this is what I do, man. And if I wasn't doing this, where would I be? Probably at a club or at a concert or doing shit I don't need to be doing. And it's this is what we do, man.
And I say independent professional wrestling. I say indie wrestling. Let's call it the cult name. I say indie wrestling saved my life. And a lot of people are like, well, how? You beat your body up, you do this, you do that. How did indie wrestling save your life? And there are pros and cons to everything. And if you let if you let wrestling, let's just say that, consume you, it can tear you apart from the inside out.
It's almost ruined my marriage.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've made so many mistakes, and it's put my relationships and my marriage, in rocky situations as well. But if you take it the way that it should be taken, and you realize that we're grown-ass men in oil, in tights, fake fighting in the ring. If you take it for what it is, but you take it at face value, I guess you should say. What I mean by pro wrestling saved my life is like I had a really bad childhood, not in the sense like I was beat or anything like that. Like I had a really bad childhood as who I was. I was a bad person. I was on a daily report up until like 10th or 11th grade in high school. My mom was literally on speed dial and like first name basis with the principal every day phone call. So if I didn't put the energy that I had so much misguided energy, and I had a lot of anger from growing up fatherless and being abandoned by my dad. If I didn't put that energy somewhere, I was already on the path of going to jail. I was stealing. I was, going into construction houses and breaking stuff. And then I started doing backyard wrestling. And my mom, she saw that. Okay, well, they're not out breaking into houses. They're not out stealing from Walmart. They're not out graffitiing. They're in the backyard wrestling. So I know they're safe and I know they're okay. Then we found the school, APW school. Forget about my history, doesn't matter. She supported that. She said, if I can let my kid take his energy and put it into this, and he's off the streets and he's not doing something bad, then this is a good thing for him. This is a positive. That's what I mean by it saved my life. I would probably be in jail.
Kirby, that's one thing I've always took a lot of pride. I've caught a lot of heat over the years for training kids 13, 14 years old. Mm-hmm. But where would those kids be if, you know, like Stoney Hooker, you know, when I
Sure.
started training Stoney, he was 14. And, you know, his mother had a boyfriend or whatever, but he didn't really have a father figure in his
Right,
life.
right.
You know, even my son, you know, I started training my son. He took bumps at 10 years old. He could set a ring up when he was 12 by
That was
himself.
a heck of an athlete.
You know, and it's, you know, another kid, you know, Dylan Dollar. You know, that kid, Dylan's still heavy. But when he was 11, 12 years old, man, he was probably the biggest 11 or 12-year-old kid I ever seen.
Right.
And I like to think that I may have helped Dylan get a little better by, you know, wrestling and getting him active and dropping some weight off of him. And that's always,
Sure.
that's been a bigger thing for me is just to try to help. You know, me and my brother grew up in a single father home with no mother. And you know, my dad worked all the time, and I know the direction that our life took. And man, if I can mentor some young kids and give them something to look forward to when their life is so full of negativity, we can give them some positive to look forward to through professional wrestling. Why not? Why not do it?
So let's run back into the promoting side of things. I know we got to wrap this up, and quite frankly, I feel like we could talk for a few more hours. So I definitely will have you back, regardless if one person views this or 1,000 people view this, because I don't know about you, but it's definitely therapeutic for me to open up and to talk about it. I mean, wrestlers themselves, they go through just a turmoil of emotions. It's a very emotional business, just because it's so hard to convey the passion that we have and the desire that we have to want to be successful. Not only want to be successful, to be accepted, and not just by the fans, but by our own peers. Like, wrestlers themselves are the biggest marks. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't care how serious they take themselves or how serious they take the business. They're a mark. That's why they're in the business to begin with. You know, and it's definitely therapeutic to get emotions out there and get it off the table. But let's go back into the promoting side of things real quick before we go and train our students who are doing their push-ups right now. Good job, guys. You're looking awesome. Jacked, just like me. So let's go back to like a kind of a loyalty and a rival promotion thing. So let's say promoter XYZ is down the street, and you've got this guy booked for your show coming up. This guy is...
Are you going here, Kurt?
I'm going here. And we don't have to name names if we don't want to, but I want to see how like you would deal with the situation, and not just as a promoter, but I mean personally. Rival promotion down the street. You've got your guy that you train, that you help bring to the business, working for you. Solid down the road. Boom, boom, boom. He's always there for you. You're not using him to the extent that he feels he should be used. He's not champion every week or superstar every week or featured every week. So rival promotion down the street books him over you. I mean, how's that? What does that feel? To you, is it okay? It's just business. It's just wrestling. I understand. Wrestlers need to feel accepted. Wrestlers need to feel larger than life, because that's what wrestling is. He needs that spotlight. I understand. Or is that, screw it, I'm done? Like, what is it?
You know, 5 years ago, I would have said that. You know, but I've grown a lot as a man, as a promoter, as a businessman, and you know, it's what can I do? Of course, I want guys, man. I want guys to put HPW first. I understand that, but you know, there's other promotions that, you know, the guy that starts the promotion. I don't even want to get into that because it's just going to start a war. But there's other promotions that's got more money than HPW, and they can pay guys to come there and wrestle more than I can
sponsors
pay.
or something.
Right.
I mean, it's not just you.
More than I can pay.
Right.
You know, and then you know, it's sometimes I just wish that the guys would see the bigger picture. You know, and even though I might not can pay them what they pay them, I give them the better stage to show their craft on. You know, we try to make sure there's a little food and some stuff in the locker room for the guys. We try to make them feel at home, man. And it's, to me, it's the fellowship and the brotherhood that I have with a locker room full of guys. And you can always tell when somebody don't fit in. You know, when we book guys that's never been here before, a lot of times you can tell 10 or 15 minutes after they're in the locker room if they're going to fit in with our family or they're not going to fit in with us. And, you know, what can I do about it, Kirby? I can't make him come here. You know,
and I think
it bothers me. Yeah, I would. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. Of course it does.
Right.
But you know, it's what it is, and it is what it is.
And I think going to what you say,
you know,
hoping that they'll see the bigger picture. I think, in a sense, a lot of wrestlers until they understand it and maybe that they've been in it long enough, and I certainly get where people are coming from, especially my first 7-8 years in business. That's all you heard was, man, you have to eat, sleep, breathe this business. You have to take every booking possible. You know, you're only as relevant as your last booking. And a lot of the times, I think when it comes to the big picture, kind of wrestlers are one-dimensional, and they see, okay, well, where am I this weekend? All right, well, I got this show, which could get me looked at in front of X amount of people, or this show, which could get me looked at in front of X amount of people, or money-wise. And I think instead of thinking in long terms, they have just that Saturday vision, so to speak, where it's like, okay, where am I going to feel more of a superstar on Saturday? And I think it's, you know, and I get it. It's a hard thing to finally break. It really is.
Dude, you know, that as bad as I would like to, I hate to say this, there's no loyalty in independent professional wrestling.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely no loyalty. I mean, look at the guys that I gave an opportunity. First off, and I'd be willing to say this, there's not another indie fan in the United States that's had John Laurinaitis sitting in front row in their arena watching their show.
Boom!
And it happened right here.
Not here, but like the next one.
Yeah, in the arena. And the very next week, every guy that got to wrestle in front of John Laurinaitis, well, 90% of those guys jumped ship and went to another promotion.
And how do you handle that as a promoter? I mean, do you sit there and hold a grudge personally and say, all right, I'm never going to book Stephen Walters again, or I'm never going to book John Schuyler again, or I'm never going to book whoever else did it? Or do you say, you know what, those guys are good talents and they're good for business. No matter how angry I am or how much it hurt me personally, because I feel betrayed for what I did for them, if an opportunity comes up where I can book them and make money for me and for them, I'm going to do it.
Oh, you know, here's the thing, Kirby, and you know, we want to go on the shoot aspect of it. I'm sure people's going to think I'm shooting. They're going to listen to what I'm about to say. Say he's shooting.
But there's also a difference in shooting and honesty. I just want you to be honest. Shooting is saying things, honest things in an offensive way. In an offensive way. Just say what you feel.
90% of the guys that jump ship shouldn't have been on the show anyway. But being that they were loyal to me each and every week, I wanted to give them that opportunity. I damn sure could have booked. I could have loaded this card, man, with, you know, Stephen Walters and John Schuyler's and, you know, guys like that. But I wanted Laurinaitis to see the real HVW. You know, I wanted him to see what we did every week. And, you know, like I say, man, there was probably 10 guys on that card that shouldn't have been.
Right.
And those 10 are the same ones that, with others that jump shit the very next week. But what can I do about it?
Right.
We come back the next week with, 8 guys in the locker room, put on a hell of a show, had a nice crowd. We basically rebuilt our fan base. You know, our crowds are up for this time of year. They're up more than they ever have been. We have a totally rebuilt locker room with a group of guys now that I truly feel like believe in HVW and want to see our product succeed. And they're here to help take HVW to the next level. But there again, you know, I had that same feeling about the group of guys that left us before. So it is what it is, man.
So let's kind of wrap it up. Let's go with one more in closing. Has there been a situation or an individual who has done something kind of betrayed you or you know, betrayed your loyalty to the point where even if you could make money with them, you wouldn't? Or being a promoter, is it strictly business? You know, the WWE, it's never say never, and Vince obviously lives by that motto, with the exception of maybe Macho Man.
Yeah.
God rest his soul now, which you can't, but you know.
You know, I wouldn't say that. No, I would say, yeah. There's one person.
Care to speak on that or
No,
no?
I won't call it by name. But if you're watching, you know who you are. He will never, ever, ever step foot in my ring as long as they
Can you elaborate on the reasoning or no?
Just for the situation in hand. You know, first off, he calls himself a promoter and don't own shit.
Uh-huh.
He don't have a ring.
Uh-huh.
He don't have a trailer. He don't have a sound system. He don't have nothing. He's got a money man behind him paying for everything, but he sits back and takes the credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've busted my ass to get where we're. Yeah, I've had.
Why won't you let the said individual back in and you don't care to elaborate on it? Which is fine.
You know, it's just for the simple.
I wouldn't
fact,
be doing my job if I didn't try.
For the simple fact that he had. Kirby, you don't know what I've done, and I'm sure other promoters have done to get their company where it's at.
Sure.
You know, I have, man. You know, I don't want. But anyway, this cat hadn't done. I'm not going to say he ain't putting the leg work as far as hanging out posters and doing stuff like that, but he's never. As long as I've known him, he's had one or two jobs. You know, it ain't like he works. It ain't like, you know, it's, I don't know. It's just tough that you can call yourself a promoter, but let somebody else finance it for you. I don't get it.
So who out there is doing something that you like on the indie scene? Like, is there another company out there that you're like, wow, they're really on track there? You know, they're doing something that either I would like to do here, or they're becoming something that I strive for HVW to become. Anybody that you're kind of, you know, obviously we all, even as wrestlers, promoters, or as individuals, we look at people that we admire and we grow to be somewhat like them.
Yeah, you know, as far as, you know, in our area locally, you know, I really would like to see HVW get to the level that, you know, Champions with Attitude, CWA, runs down out of Orangeburg. Roger Gleaton. Sure. You know, dude, man, he's got a good mind. He's got a hell of a setup. You know, his
loyal fans.
Yeah, very loyal fans. You know, he's drawing 300, 400, 500 people a show with no names. You know, just with a hell of a group of guys, and you know that's, you know. But as far as, yeah, you know, that's definitely where I would like to see HVW step to that level.
Now, what are some other things coming up for HVW? I know you got Unstoppable coming up. You might want to
We got Unstoppable coming up next Friday, next Saturday.
Some youth streaming, so let's just speak on that.
Yeah, it's. I'm going to go ahead and lay this out now. It's the first time we've ever done it. You know, it's new technology for us. We're just learning. It's not going to be the best that it could possibly be the first time, but we got to get our feet wet. We got to try, see how it works.
Hey, I would never know that I could not
if you don't
do the
try,
shooting
right?
star if I didn't try it.
You know, the biggest thing is, you know, our building, our arena here, we don't have internet access, so we're not going to be able to do it with a video camera. We're going to have to do it from a good smartphone that's got a good camera. But you know, I really think that.
But you're still getting the product.
Oh yeah, you know, and it's a first time for everything.
So when is the first stream?
Next Saturday, August the 18th.
For HW's Unstoppable.
Right.
Just throw the card out there.
Yeah, man, we got the Rise Guys morning show in the house. Matt Man's going to be the special guest ring announcer. Big Nine's going to be the special guest general manager. Jeff Lewis Neal himself is coming in to wrestle former TNA superstar Murphy. You guys might know him as Michael Judas, another big indie name that some of you may never heard of. Plus, we got Kirby Mack taking on Brady Pierce inside the cage for the HVW title.
Definitely heard of it.
We got Matt Burns defending the HVW Southeastern Championship against Josh Cutshaw. We have Oh man, tell them about this aerial assault thing. This was your whole concept.
Are the boxes
Yeah.
ready, Jeff?
The boxes
Are they here?
The boxes.
One. Is it here? Go get it.
Go get
Someone,
the box.
who can run
Go
fast?
get the box. But while they're getting the box, tell them about
Well,
it.
everyone knows what the aerial assault is. Well, not everyone, right? But it's we're taking the CZW concept from my buddy DJ Hyde. We're gonna debut it down south. We're not stealing it. We're not ripping it off. We're giving CZW the full credit. This is the southern debut of the aerial assault match, the CZW style aerial assault match, where we put the boxes on the ring post, and we have 4 of the best lightweights in the area compete. Derek Rice, who is by far one of the top talents I know, man's a genius. Incredible in the ring, even if he is going bald. Tracer X is what, one of your trainees, right?
Yes, sir.
He's an up and comer.
Up and coming.
Joe Blackwell, he is in Pro Wrestling Evo, and another Robin Goffin from Pro Wrestling Evo. You know, two Evo stars right there for the aerial assault match. We'll bring the box, we'll show it. Maybe, I don't know. Where can people find out about HVW? You got some YouTube?
Yeah, we got a YouTube channel, HVW. Facebook, just you can find myself, Gary Benfield, or you can look up High Velocity Wrestling. You can find me on Twitter. I don't know about that Twitter.
What's your Twitter? At HVW?
Yeah, it's Gary Benfield, or HVW for Life.
So it's at HVW for Life. Just bring them around, guys. Just walking around, just kind of stand in front. So we've got the box here, kind of lifted up, and then lift it down. So we've got this big block here. We're going to sit this, Google aerial assault CZW, and you'll see the box sits inside of the ring posts.
Ring post.
And then we pay 4 guys $20 a piece to kill themselves for your entertainment. So it's going to be a great time. Thanks, guys. Anything else you'd like to say? Parting words? You know,
just thank you for having me on the first episode of the Safe House.
any things, you know, any revelations? Maybe you're gay.
No, I'm not down like that.
You want to shoot on somebody right now?
No, man. My shooting days are done and over.
Seth MacFarlane, I know he recently has said something that offended you on an episode of Family Guy. No.
Really?
So that's
Hey,
it.
I would like to give a big shout out to Bojack at North Star Productions. He filmed our extravaganza show and did a little documentary on the days before extravaganza and what we did to build up to
Extravaganza was Matt Hardy versus Kirby Mack, first ever.
Yeah, right here live at the HVW Arena.
Not to drop names, but Kirby Mack, big name.
But anyway, next Saturday at Unstoppable, we're actually going to, the documentary is 46 minutes. At 10 after 7, we're going to play the documentary before Unstoppable, just to help the fans pass the time.
So think about this, guys, if you're in the area, because I'm going to get this up fairly quick. On the 18th of August, right, not only do you get to see the Rise Guys, 93.3 The Planet, Shock Jocks, live and in person, you get to see a cage match. You get to see the southern debut of the aerial assault, which is just going to be mind-blowing. Thank God I'm not following that. As a matter of fact, you should probably open the show with that, so it's far away from my match. And if you come early, you get to see this documentary of extravaganza for free. I mean, you're paying obviously the price for missing the show, but you're watching this documentary for free. Right? Why wouldn't you come and pay $10 for all that? I mean, you'd be stupid not to.
Plus, 8 big matches.
Or broke, I'm not sure.
8 big matches, with some of the best talent on the indie circuit today. So,
look, I want to thank you, man. I appreciate you being open and being honest and kind of letting your soul out there, letting people see the struggles and the inner struggles. I am Kirby Mack. This is Gary Benfield, a.k.a. Viper. You can follow him on Twitter at HVW4Life. You can follow me on Twitter at NotKirbyMack. That's NotKirbyMack. You got something to say? No. All right. Let's get out of this safe house.
513.
I have to waterboard you. Oh, thanks for tuning in. Without you, there'd be no point in doing this.
See you.